All right. What is going on? What is going on, everybody? Lions Den is back in the building. As you are coming on, make sure you chime in below. Let us know where you are tuning in from. I know y'all been missing us, and my apologies for missing last week. We had some family things to take care of, and so we were not able to jump on and to get into the Lions Den. But we are back. We are back. We are back, and I am super super excited about today because I think I made this call or sent the text out maybe a few weeks ago because this guy is ridiculously busy. So I wanted to make sure that I get on his calendar and let him talk to this audience today, as always. I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time. I want to be mindful of your time, but I definitely want to give you some substance here in the Lions Den. So again, as you are tuning in, let us know where you are tuning in from, and get ready for some major some life-changing information today. All right, what's up, Dr. Wilson? I see you, man. I see you. Thanks for jumping on, brother. As always, your support is definitely much appreciated. And as y'all see me looking over here and looking over there, is because I'm controlling all these different things, but we're going to make this happen. So um, without further ado, again, welcome back to the Lions Den, where we are cultivating the potential that's built up on the inside of you. You know, I think it was 2 weeks ago when I shared what the Lions Den is all about. And so I want to briefly talk about that again. Um, so those that are tuning in for the first time, you would understand what this is about. So the Lion's Den, if you've read the book, if you haven't read the book, then you definitely want to get this book. All right. This is not a plug, but it is a plug because as we meet each and every week, the principles that I share in the book, the Lion's Den, is going to make more sense as we get together and we discuss this each and every week. So here's what I want to do. Okay, the Lions Den is a community for those that are, I don't want to use the word sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's cliche, right? But those that know that there's something more that they've been destined to fulfill in life. And the Lions Den is the community where we come together and we figure out how we go from where we are to where we desire to be based on God's given purpose for you. All right. So, with that being said, we are joined by someone that I hold very, very, very dear to my heart. Um, you know, it is very rare, and I'll just be honest. It's very rare in today's society to have family that are as tight as we are, and I'll brag about it all day long. My brothers and I, we are extremely extremely close, and we have an opportunity really to hear from someone that, although he's my, what you would call, I guess, younger brother, he is someone that I hold to a high standard because the way he thinks is so rare. It's so rare, but it's so profound and it's so impactful. I can literally sit here for hours on top of hours talking to my brother. And so, what I want to do is I'm going to share with you just some information about who you're getting ready to hear, because some of you guys may know my brother Tim, but I don't know if you really know who Tim is, right? And so I want to just share some brief information with you real quick about who you're getting ready to hear from, and then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to introduce you to the one and only, I call him my brother, Tim Lewis. So listen up real quick. Tim, y'all saw me looking over here, my son looking at me holding up a sign telling about the dog ate chocolate. She'll be okay, buddy. She's fine. Your nephew, Tim. So Tim is a certified mindfulness coach and educator at heart. with over 15 years of dynamic experience, honoring unique individuality and nurturing innate curiosity. An avid researcher of epigenetics, I'm gonna let him explain that, human psychology, and the new human biology. He allows a love for learning and growth to fuel a zest for life, and I guarantee you're gonna be able to really draw that from him as we get into this discussion tonight or this evening. So he again, he has a fuel, or he allows a love for learning and growth to fuel a zest for life. Tim is a 200-hour RYT, and that is what is that, Tim? What is RYT? I know it's yoga.
Registered yoga
That's
teacher.
it. Registered yoga trainer, right?
Teacher.
Teacher with training in the foundations of yin and trauma sensitive yoga. Tim teaches an everyday mindfulness and meditation course with works uh, um, everyday mindfulness and meditation course works with individuals and groups looking to explore how mindfulness can neutralize effects of stress and modern living, and offers embodied movement classes including yoga and capoeira. Listen, let me come back on here real quick so y'all can understand what's getting ready to happen. Again, um yes, he's my brother, right? But you're getting ready to hear from somebody that, without a doubt, is a game changer in this generation. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm gonna let him talk on this. But right now, he is in the process, or he actually has a program specifically for teachers. As an educator myself, it is so needed in what he's doing for teachers, because I've had so many conversations with people recently about the educational system. And listen, it's so hard to say, or it's so hard to really explain this to someone that's not in the field. But man, education is different. The school system is so different, and what he's offering is something that hands down everybody needs. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is, let me make sure that I have you queued up, Tim, and we are going to get it in. We gonna get it in. All right, all right. So, ladies and gentlemen, my brother Tim is in the building. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Man,
Thanks
listen,
for.
listen, dude. We are here. We are here, man. What was it? It was man. It had to be has it been a month already that I reached out? I was like, look, dude, I need you on the podcast. I need you on the show. Has it been a
I,
month?
I think it was after you did the first one, or you did like an introduction
Okay.
of the weekly episodes,
Yeah.
and then it was after that. Yeah.
Man, listen, I I had to get you on here, man, because like I said before, like we can talk for hours, literally. Like literally,
Easy,
we lose.
easy.
Yeah, man, we lose track of time when we talk. And but whenever we talk, like the conversation be so doggone deep is crazy. It be crazy, man. And again, like the conversations you and I have, not too many people can really just like rock with the conversation, because one, they may not be in the field of education, and two, they I don't know if they expose themselves to the same information, or expose themselves to the information at the depth that you expose yourself to this information. So here's what I want to do. You already know, man, it's never scripted. It's never scripted. Even when we were talking earlier, I'm like, or I think it was yesterday, I was like, look, man, ain't no script. You already know. I want this boy to be authentic as always. But there are three things that I would like to make sure that we at least touch on, and I'm gonna let you flow. I'm gonna let you flow. Um, Whenever I think about what you do personally, right? Obviously, the first thing that comes across my mind is mindfulness, right? And then I think about meditation. I know I've called you several times before and was just like, okay, let's dig deep into meditation, right? But in today's time, especially with what's going on in the world, society is just like, man, they're looking for direction, right? I'm learning more and more that people are dealing with trauma,
Mm.
they're dealing with a tremendous amount of trauma, and I think the word trauma scares people. Right now, let me say this as a disclaimer: we are not medical professionals. The information that we're going to share with you is just for information purposes. So please, if you are dealing with anything that comes across in this podcast today, make sure you seek professional help. Okay, there's nothing wrong with seeking professional help, so make sure you do that. All right. So, Tim, talk to us, man. Like, what's going on with you right now? Like, when you think of what's going on in the world, what's going on society, what's going on with like the young generation, what's going on with people, period. Like,
Yeah.
what's the thought? What's the thought?
Well, first of all, thanks for this conversation. Like this, it really is a blessing that we can have these conversations, just even you and I. But the fact that we can also be vulnerable and have these conversations in public, I think that too is super extra special. So thank you so much for this space, for the ideas, etc. To be honest, when I look out into the world, into the many things that are going on, one of the first things that come up for me is like this word chaos.
Mm,
The word chaos comes up, and you know, I would even say that the invitation though is to be curious about, the relationship with chaos, because what's also true of chaos, you have all this stuff going on, right? You can take any person and, if you were to do just kind of a basic survey and say like, oh, what are some things that are bothering you?
mm,
you know Give a laundry list, whether they're a teenager, whether they are, little kids, whether they are young adults, senior citizens. Everybody's going to have a list of things that are kind of, you know bothering them, if you will.
mm.
um, but in the midst of all of the chaos, there's also this beautiful opportunity for order.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's one of the things that we miss sometimes when we look out into the world. And again, this is not to negate anything that's happening, right? This is not to turn a blind eye to it and say, oh, if I just you know close one eye, then I won't see it. It's not saying that. However, at the same time, if we tune our attention so much to all of the chaos, then we lose ourselves in that. And I
Mm,
think that's a lot of what's happening. So, this condition of like we lose ourselves in things that the news tells us to do. We lose ourselves in, the things that we're supposed to do because this is our job, or we lose the our sense of self because this is an identity that I adopted a long time ago, that I said this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to stick with it. And it's like, that's not really working for me anymore,
wow.
right? So I think some of this contributes to some of the chaos that we see. But then so we can zoom out and see big chaos, and we can also come close to home and see chaos within ourselves.
Wow. Wow. You know what's so interesting about that? Like, as you were sitting here and sharing that, um, I thought about, you posted a video, man, this probably maybe a year ago now, and it, man, I can't tell you honestly how many times I watched it, because it just made, personally, it made my heart glad to see it, right? But you posted a video a year ago, and you were outside a fire hydrant. I think it was a fire I think it was a fire hydrant, man. And you were just dancing in the street like a little kid, right?
Yeah.
Man, I watched that so many times, right? And obviously it made me think about our childhood. We had a phenomenal childhood, man. But I thought about, in today's time, how can somebody that's surrounded by so much chaos in the world exemplify so much peace and happiness,
Uh,
right? Like,
yeah.
how do you get there personally? Like, what's your routine, if you have one? How do you get there every morning? Because it never fails. Like, and for the audience, listen. You see his social media plug underneath his name. Go follow him, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. Everything he posts is about peace. It's about happiness. It's about just that mindfulness, man. How do you stay in that frame of mind, though?
First disclaimer: I'm human. All right, that's the first disclaimer.
Ah,
But man, to be honest, I think a level of, okay, here's the thing. I'll use like an analogy. You remember the old school radios in the car where you could have like number one program
yeah,
to 97.9, number two program to 92.7, number three 98.9, number four 107 point, you get it, right?
yep.
So all of these things are like frequencies, radio frequency waves that we can tune into. They broadcast certain signals. They give us a certain music type, a genre, right? I think a lot of times, this is again for me, I think a lot of times about those things as almost like emotional set points.
Mm,
So for me, joy is important. It's important that I find a sense of joy. So if I tune my set point to joy more frequently, then I'm going to find that
mm,
because that's what's broadcasting through.
wow.
If I tune my frequency or what I'm looking for to curiosity, then I'm going to find things that make me either question or make me wonder or put me in awe of something.
Mm,
So for me, it's a matter of knowing what's important to me. What is it that I truly want to experience? And again, this is not to say that the sadness, the anger, the frustration, the all of these things, it's not to say that those things don't exist. And it's not to say that, that frequency doesn't tune towards it. But for me, what's important is like, all right, there's my North Star.
mm,
Set it. It's like your GPS. You set your GPS to where you want to go. There are going to be detours along the way, and you might get a traffic jam. Somebody cut you off in the middle of traffic, whatever the case may be. But being able to set your, I'll use the word intention, to be able to set your intention towards what it is that I want to experience.
wow.
So for me, joy is a big one.
So
CJ.
yeah, so I love it, man, because my boy CJ, he just said it, and he has a podcast that is just fire, dude. It's ridiculous. When we get off of here, I'm gonna turn you on to it. As a matter of fact, CJ, you make sure you put your plug down there as well. So but here's this question, right? What is your definition of joy?
Yeah. My definition of joy is that which makes me feel lighthearted,
Mm,
that which feeds my curiosity. So I've always been very attracted to like really big questions. Not so much the answer to the question, but what's going to happen? What am I going to learn along the way? So I find joy in that. I mean, I'm behind me. I've got like an entire bookshelf, and I got stack of books over there and a stack of books back there, and so for me, it's like anything that feeds that curiosity, that feeds this sense of lightness, this sense of brevity. um, for me, I find joy in those things. I also find joy in eating good food, right? So it's being aware of those things, though.
mm,
It's being aware of, because and that might be a kind of a touchy subject for some people, and especially because we can be so disconnected from the act of eating, for example,
mm.
right? But that could be a source of joy. So it's less about kind of a definition, as opposed to like what's the experience, like what's the feeling or the sensation that it gives me.
Oh man. So, okay. All right. So dig deeper into that, right? Because you use that word experience, right? And break that down though. Like what's the difference? You know what I mean? Like when you're looking for that experience, like what does that mean?
You talking about for me personally? What is it that I'm?
Yep, like how do you identify an experience from just any other thing? You know what I mean? Because I use that a lot too. Like I give an example, right? For me, an experience opens up the door for all the different emotions that is attached to whatever it is that I'm experiencing, right? Whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, there's emotions that's attached to that, right? That I wouldn't get any other way, right? So for you, when you say experience, what are you referring to?
Honestly, kind of just the life that's in front of us. That's an experience in and of itself. The one that happened 5 minutes ago, it's gone.
Oh man.
The one that's going to happen, 30 minutes, it doesn't even exist. So it's like right here, right now, we're having an experience. And I'm in joy because I'm talking to my brother, like,
Oh,
you
wow.
know?
See
So,
it.
and that's the thing about, so that's the thing about mindfulness that I feel like sometimes get lost in the words, is like there are like these misconceptions or ideas of what mindfulness is and what types of, you know, I'll use the word worship or what it is that one does to practice mindfulness.
Hmm.
But in essence, it's really the life that's in front of you,
Wow.
right?
So it makes perfect sense, right? So again, those of you that are tuning in, when you go and you look at his Instagram, um, one thing that I notice a lot about your page, Tim, is that again, like you just said, you're just experiencing the life that's right in front of you, right? Like you will post a video of little ducks swimming in the pond, you know what I mean? Just like sunlight, just it's like it's just random stuff. But you have, I mean, just a empty trail. You'll be walking in the in the woods somewhere, and it's just nothing. You know what I mean? But to you, it's an experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know this about me probably better than most anyone, but you know how much being outside and in nature always brought me a sense of joy, a sense of peace when we were kids.
Yeah,
Like,
man, used to
you
collect
know,
rocks and everything, dude.
collect rocks, grab frogs.
Yeah,
I
man.
was always at, always at the creek, and that was it.
Oh man. So let's do this. Right. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me see. CJ got something. So he says, so the experience emotion in the present to learn from processing it, wisdom for the future. Oh, this is yeah, I told you he deep. He deep.
Yeah.
He deep. So let's do this, right? Because you've thrown the word mindfulness around as well. So what is, if there is, a difference between mindfulness and meditation? Is it the same?
No, no, they are not the same. There is a class of meditation called mindfulness meditation.
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna use kind of some definition.
Okay.
So mindfulness, by most, I would say, like people who kind of reference some of the older teachers of the practices. Mindfulness is defined as being with the present moment without judgment.
Mm.
Again, think about that. Being with the present moment without judgment. It's like, wait a minute.
Good or
That
bad?
means that neutral. The experience is neutral,
Wow.
right? That's the idea to get to that point of understanding that experiences are neutral. It's, ultimately the thinking that makes it good or makes it bad. But mindfulness is simply the practice of being with what is without judgment.
Hmm.
So it could mean sitting in a space and simply observing sounds as they are happening, watching sounds as they come and sounds as they go.
Hmm.
It could be sitting in a space and noticing the sensations that are in the body. Now, this is not to say that, as you're sitting there, you hear the siren come up. What also comes up is like, wow, that's loud. It hurts my ears. It's this, it's that, and all these things. So the practice invites us to allow even those things to come up and also pass through.
Hmm.
So it's not a matter of pushing anything away or making something any different than it is. It's experiencing it as it is.
That's interesting. Now you just reminded me. You know, like you just said, more than anybody. Like I'm a huge, in addition to Michael Jackson, like Bruce Lee fan, right? And you just
Mhm.
made me think about the scene where he said, "The art of fighting without fight, art of fighting without fighting," right?
Yeah.
Malcolm Gladwell Gladwell wrote a book called Blink. As a matter of fact, is literally right here on my desk, right? Called Blink, the power of thinking without thinking, right? What's interesting about what I hear you saying is meditation allows you to go to that place where subconsciously you're thinking without consciously thinking.
Wait, go backwards because I only talked about mindfulness so far.
Right, but you also said to be able to just like whether good or bad, right? To not really think about it. You know what I mean? Like what does that mean? Like how do you do that?
Well, I mean, here's a question that I have, and this comes up a lot of times.
They said what he hear is being present in the present.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I hear a lot of times is people will say, "Oh, I can't meditate because I just can't turn my mind off. I can't
Yeah.
stop thinking. I can't all these things. I can't." And my question in return is always like, "Well, who said you need to turn your thinking off?
Mm,
Who said that was ever the goal, or, who kind of set that as the standard?"
mm,
Because the brain is a sense making machine, right?
mhm.
It's intended to think. That's what it's supposed to do. So what would it be like to flip the script and say, that's not a problem? Like, what would it be like to then understand that, okay, I have a neutral attitude towards that? Thoughts are arising, thoughts are coming up, thoughts are whatever they are, however one may describe them.
Mhm.
So that's really the kind of when I think about like effortless thinking, it's not even trying to push anything away. It's like, for example, I'll give you an example. If a group of people were to sit down and start to practice a seated meditation,
Mhm.
thoughts are going to pop up all over the place. that that's kind of the thing. All of a sudden, that's when the body is like, oh, this itches. Oh, wait, maybe I need to move like that. Oh, I didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher, and now I've got to do, all of these things are just going to happen.
Yep.
And so the thing, it's like water. I used to have a, oh, it's over on the other side. So one of the models that I like to use is kind of like water with a bunch of debris in it. If you shake it up, all that debris is floating around, but as you become still, then that all that debris starts to settle,
Hmm.
and then all you have is the clarity of the water. That's kind of what effortless thinking is all about.
I'm listening to you. CJ talking about Goku. Goku going ultra instinct. Ah, I told y'all he ain't no joke, man. He's no joke. He is no joke. So okay, now I wanna ask you a question though, right? And I'm again, man, we can be on here for hours, and I'm looking at the time, and it's 30 minutes already. It's crazy. So how do a person, okay, without thank you, babe, without acknowledging without acknowledging the thought, and I'm saying it this way because so many people don't know how to dismiss the thought, right? For example, I remember when I first started meditating, right? One of the things that I would constantly be dealing with is when a negative thought will come, to just let that pass instead of just, you know what I mean, like it now I kind of got a handle on it, right? I just let it go, and I visualize what it is I desire opposed to what it is that I don't want. But if I'm hearing you correctly, like CJ said, you basically allow yourself to be in the present, but what do you do with that negative thought though?
I mean, can you grab it?
No.
Can you put it in a bottle and send it somewhere?
No.
So it's almost like this fighting this invisible monster sometimes.
My pet monster. That's an inside joke, y'all.
Yeah, it's like fighting an invisible monster sometimes, trying to press away or make these thoughts go away.
Hmm.
It's like when the person, when you're out in public and somebody say, "Yo, don't look right now." First thing you want to do is look.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or they say, "Don't think about the pink elephant."
Where's
First
that
thing that came to your mind,
pink elephant?
some version of a pink elephant.
Where that thing at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the other side of that is, if you were to go outside and you just look up at the clouds, one day it's cloudy and then they kind of move and then they shift and then all of a sudden, no, there's clarity and there's nothing there, and then sometimes there's a rain cloud and then other times they aren't. So
Hmm.
that's kind of how thoughts, they just kind of pop up and fall down. Watch them like TV.
Wow.
Although that's kind of dangerous now, because TV has this propensity to drive people towards anger, towards fear in a lot of ways. Like that television programming can be really dangerous. So we're not just passively watching TV um, anymore. Like TV has this stronghold on emotion. It has this stronghold, and that's a really really powerful energy. CJ was talking earlier about the experience emotion in the present.
Hmm.
Like, and I'll give an example. You watch something on TV, that thing has the potential to make someone's blood just boil, and they're just holding on to it. That's when these simple principles get complicated, because it's the unwillingness to recognize that it's our thoughts that we're holding on to.
Hmm.
It's the thought about what happened. It's the reaction to that situation that took place. It's not happening in the present.
Hmm.
That person who's in the TV is not actually physically harming you, yet they are causing the energy and the chemistry of stress in your body.
Hmm.
And this starts to get into some of that embodied stuff, but
Yeah, no, I mean, no, that's deep, man. So, because I'm obviously, with all the stuff that's going on, like you said, on TV, politics, and all that stuff, people are just in the uproar. So okay, so here's the question then: meditation. How does that help with all of this? Does
for sure.
it? Like for someone that has never ever even took a second to meditate, right? how does that how does that help? Like when I think of meditation, the first thing I think about is Joshua 1:8, right? One of the things, like for years, like real talk, Tim, for years I stayed away from meditation only because my level of understanding of it up until years ago was it's this mystical voodoo stuff, right? And then I remember coming across, as a matter of fact, I got it right here in Joshua 1:8, right? It says, "This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night." So, like, when I saw that, just seeing that alone, meditate in the word of God, for me, I was like, oh crap. So meditation is not this mystical voodoo thing that people have made it out to be. Like this is a spiritual principle, right?
Mhm.
So I wanted to dig deeper into, okay, what is this meditation, or is what is it all about? And how do I master this thing, right? So I mean, you're a master at it, man. So what is meditation? How is it different from what we've been talking about so far?
Yeah, the best way that I can describe it in a way that's kind of tangible, something that people can kind of grasp onto. I'll use a scientific kind of approach. The process of meditating simply means to become familiar with.
Mm.
So, becoming familiar with thought, becoming familiar with emotion, becoming familiar with sensations of the body,
Mm.
right? Um, and like you said, so often this practice is automatically kind of categorized into certain religions associated with deities and all this kind of stuff. And I heard you use the word mysticism. There's a
Mhm.
lot of mysticism that we're surrounded by. There's mysticism of how the breath actually comes into the body
Wow.
and then does what it needs to do. So, where do we learn to then vilify that which is mystical?
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. Where's the opportunity for us to become more familiar with that which is mystical, because it is of God?
Hmm. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Ah, that is so good. Keep rolling. Keep rolling, man. Keep rolling. No, that's good, man.
So the practice of meditation is really about becoming familiar with one of my favorite meditations to kind of lead. It actually invites us to look at the different elements, right? So we look at these elements out in nature, and again, we can appreciate them, we can recognize them. We don't put them in the woo woo box.
Mm,
They're not associated with a particular, deity or relationship per se. But and what I'm talking about are, these elements of water, these elements of fire, these elements of the earth itself, and the element of wind. We have all of those elements in our body, and it's a really powerful thing to be able to sit and again become familiar with this process of water that circulates through your body, that's carrying blood, carrying nutrients, the tears that wash away,
mm.
right? That which we use to nourish, the saliva, the tears,
Wow.
the air that we breathe, the earth element, this solid foundation, these bones that keep our structure, the muscles that help us to walk from place to place,
Wow.
right? And so we can say, oh yeah, I'm grateful for, this, and oh, this is so great, but we're not even familiar with it
Hmm.
because we don't sit with it. We don't take the time to become familiar with, because there's the distraction, there's the, again, some people call it the monkey mind. So that monkey mind that say, oh, I got to do this, I'm too busy, I don't have time for that.
Hmm.
And again, that kind of is rooted in this thing of like, oh, meditation is just sitting there and doing nothing. Okay. So in you had asked the question earlier about how does this help a person,
Hmm.
and I'll give you some real practical examples. One, I had given that example earlier about the TV. Right, we're surrounded by stimulus. We
Mhm.
are overstimulated. In fact, whether it be because of our devices, the many tabs that we have open, like we are overstimulated. The opportunity to turn off some of that stimulation and just allow for rest,
Hmm.
something that in some cultures rest is, it's unfamiliar.
Wow.
I was teaching a class the other day, and I had asked the question. One of the things I like to ask at the end of class is like, what does your body need in this moment? What does your body need in this moment? And this lady had called out and she said, a vacation.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what is it about that vacation? And it wasn't supposed to necessarily be a dialogue, but it kind of turned into it. And I said, what is it about that vacation? She's like, no husband, no kids. I don't have to do this. I'm going to sit on the beach and I'm just going to, just have a drink. So I say, but what's the feeling? Like, what do you want to feel? She was like, relaxed.
Hmm.
And I said, okay, well, we can bring that into this part of the practice. Like, let's, just start with the eyelids. And
Wow.
in fact, anybody that's on the call right now, let's try it. Just let your eyelids rest heavy, almost like you want them to close, but you're barely taking in light, any stimulation. Then, as you start to feel the sensation of breath, you might even notice that the eyes are like, yo, I want to close. Go ahead and close the eyes. Notice what's happening with the breath as it moves in and the breath as it moves out. You might notice where you can feel the breath as it enters the nose, maybe the rise and the fall of the belly. And then we're going to start to come out of this practice just by moving the fingers, moving the toes, taking your time, the same way you went in. So gently allow light to come back into the experience. So some people sometimes, I feel like, and this kind of comes full circle, to we're so conditioned to see chaos, but really the magic is always in the simplicity. Nature is simple. Meditation is simple. Right? There's order that comes from chaos.
Hmm.
Human body. We've got trillions of cells that are all trying to do their thing.
Yeah.
And what is it? It's actually disease that is this one cell that goes bonkers and is like, yo, I'm gonna eat everything. And I'm gonna grow and I'm gonna multiply and I'm never gonna, you know, that's what cancer is.
Hmm.
So the order that exists within the chaos is actually the gift of, I mean, honestly, this whole experience. So can we get to that point where as we look out into the world and yes, we see a world that's on fire, how can we then be the change by not being as reactive to the fires? You know, I'm not going to run into it,
Hmm.
right? I'm not going to feed it with my attention, that currency. Instead, I'm going to direct my focus towards what it is that I want to see in the world. That's what all the spiritual teachers taught us.
Man, that's interesting. That is so interesting. Okay. Okay. You know we're gonna have to do a part two on this. So we close to 45 in, right? So let's in closing, let's bring the connection, right? Because in the beginning we talked about trauma as far as that being an issue, right?
Yeah.
How does meditation and mindfulness impact trauma?
Ooh. Hmm. I mean, I think it does in a lot of ways. One, I think one of the probably, I'll call it the lowest hanging fruit, is by helping to regulate the nervous system.
Hmm.
So, trauma is essentially a stress response. And our definition of trauma has changed dramatically because, again, people, I think when we hear that word, we think about, seeing someone murdered or seeing, and I don't want to name too many things here. Again, I don't want to trigger anybody, but you get the point. We think about these traumas of like, oh, that was that big thing that someone witnessed, or um, we've come to now understand that there are examples of what we call big T and small t traumas. But I would even go so far as to say that globally, we have all gone through a period of time or experience that has been traumatic,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've all gone through a period of time collectively. So what that does is it one sends the body into a stress response. Stress is going to create chemistry in the body that's not helpful. Mindfulness and meditation helps to regulate that.
Hmm. That's good.
That's one. The other thing is reactivity. The I believe it was the he's a psychotherapist and an author, Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. He talks about between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space is the opportunity to choose. And so, again, in our everyday relationships, whether that be with a significant other, whether that be with our children, whether that be with our coworkers, whether that be with ourselves, we always are in this space of being able to react or respond, and it exists in this opportunity to make different choices.
Hmm.
When we're on this hamster wheel, we don't see choice.
Wow.
Right? We often don't see it because biologically, a lot of times there's kind of this habituated nature So when that saying, I don't know how many people have heard this, that we'll choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven, because again, the nervous system is tuned to habit,
Wow.
and that's something that I go into a lot in some of my individual coaching, some of my group coaching. Um, I have one of the things in my everyday mindfulness program is that we actually talk about the biology of trauma. We talk about, some of these developmental standards in life. Um, Between the ages of zero and 7, like that's a really really significant period of time from a biological standpoint, development, etc. So those are some of the things that I go into in a little bit more detail, but mindfulness and meditation helps in a number of ways. And again, so I what I do is I sum it up into three things: greater energy, more clarity, and a wider range of freedom.
Hmm.
So if I were to take the busy mom who is working 12 hours a day and, still has kids at home, and she's trying to do all the things, and she's looking for this balance, this work life balance. One of the things that I like to do is to kind of, first of all, pose that question of like, her response to what more energy is going to do for her is very different than what it looks like for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different for another person. But how can we then shift it? Because listen, she's holding all the things, she's balancing already. How can we get into a rhythm? Because that's what life is: rhythm.
Hmm.
We've got rhythms of the season, rhythm of night and day, rhythm of, temperatures going up and going down. And so it's like, all right, all these things, again, mindfulness teaches us to be with what is. Those things aren't going away. But how can we be with them and have more energy, greater clarity, and a wider range of freedom?
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Pause. Pause, because we gotta save some for the next one. Oh my goodness, man. We could literally go for hours, dude. You already know that. You already know that. So, what I want to do is, in closing, right? I want people to know how to connect with you. Tell everybody what you have going on and how they can be a part of that, man. And also, because I know for a fact I have some teachers on here, right? Man, talk about the program that you have for teachers. Yeah, CJ, we gonna have to do a part two, man. We definitely gonna have to do it. No question. No question.
CJ, I do want your question though. I
Oh,
do. He said, "Let me erase my next question."
he said he want that question.
I
As
want it.
as he putting that question up there, man. Um, I want you to tell everybody what you have for teachers.
Yeah,
Um, and what is that going to do for them?
yeah. So over the course of this summer, I'm offering 4 weeks of mindfulness coaching for teachers, and this is really all about recharging the battery.
Mm,
So teaching is a profession that is near and dear to my heart. Like you said in the bio, I've spent a considerable amount of time in so many different classrooms all over Southeast Asia, throughout Brazil, and throughout New York City. And so one of the things that I notice is that profession is one where it's really about giving, 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 right? And the ridicule that comes there are a lot of things, a lot of factors from outside. There are the parents, there are these, people who have never been in a classroom before, and again, it's taking and draining a lot of energy. And so this program is really all about helping teachers to restore that sense of their purpose, their why. It's really hard to be able to kind of get to that purpose or that why when you don't have the energy for it.
mm.
So this program is really all about helping teachers to find that sense of safety within themselves, being able to have some really really practical, easy ways to reset the nervous system. So I'm talking like one of the things that I offer in this program is the opportunity for teachers to walk away with their own mindfulness toolkit. And I'll tell you how simple this is. I'm gonna give away a freebie right now. So one of the practices is literally 1 minute, and it invites you to take an object, a pen, and just look at it like it's the first time you've ever seen it before. So just simply notice for 1 minute. And again, let the thoughts, the whatever they are, but there are these kind of small micro resets that help to restore energy. And so those are some of the things that we talk about over the course of 4 weeks.
Here's here's CJ's question. What about when you medicate, your focus goes towards the negative? I've gotten a habit of when I finally lay down at night, I have to fight for my graduate through the day other than negative worry.
Yeah. So one thing to recognize is that we have something called a negativity bias, and this is something that was very very helpful for ancient civilizations who were constantly on alert for threats.
Hmm.
So the mind sometimes have this tendency to go towards the negative. It has this tendency to go towards you know um, one way to describe it is like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? I don't know if anybody has ever felt that before, but this feeling of like things are good, but like they what if this happens, or what about that, and then this and that. That is absolutely normal.
Hmm.
So the thing is, your question, when it happens, it happens. That's it. So first of all, accepting, and that's one of the pillars of mindfulness is learning to accept. And again, that sounds simple, but acceptance doesn't mean that we like it,
Hmm.
right? So the negative thought comes up, and that's it. It simply comes up. Sometimes we can follow that train of thought, see where it goes, get curious about it. Where is it going to take you? Go there. Um, Now that's not so helpful, at night, because that's when we're trying to go to sleep, and that's all of a sudden when everything comes up of like, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. Now I got to do it, and that's when it's like go time, but it's like no, it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah, and you go to bed with that on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a quick tip for you, CJ. One of the things that you might consider is like just make it a practice to sit down with a post-it note in the evening and write some of those worries.
Hmm.
They don't have to go anywhere else other than that paper, but they come out of your head.
Uh,
So write them down, crumble it up, rip it up, do whatever you got to do with them, but get them out your head.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. All right. Hey, we're going to put a needle right here. We're going to put a pause right here. 56 minutes in. All right. So
Wow.
I know, man. I know. So how can people stay in touch with you? How can they reach out to you for your services? Like how can people stay connected with you?
Yeah. So social media, first word in there, social. It's not observation media. Like, so I am active on social media, and when I post things, so I post insights, wisdom, practices, and I post regularly on Instagram. I post on Facebook. I take a spin at mindfulness in the workplace on LinkedIn if that's your speed. So those are three ways to engage with some of the content that I put out, the practices, the invitations for introspection. All of those go into the social medias. Very active in terms of DMs, answering questions. I enjoy that stuff because otherwise I wouldn't be on social media. Trust me, I would not be on because there's just too much. It's a circus on there, and so social media. That's some of the ways to get in contact with me. That also is the way to link and book a discovery call. One of the things that I like to do within that discovery call is really to kind of talk about the ways, again, in which those three things that I talked about: energy, clarity, and freedom.
Mm,
If you're the type of person who's noticing, always saying, I'm tired, that's like an alarm clock,
mm,
right? And let's also be clear that that'll be a conversation for another time. But that physical exhaustion is not just this body,
uh,
right? So that's one thing. What would it be like for you to live life with more energy,
mm,
clarity? What would it be like? Because again, life is transition, life is rhythm. What would it be like to have a greater sense of clarity in terms of that this big hairy question, what do you want? And then the third thing, what would it be like to live your life with an ultimate feeling of freedom regardless of outside conditions?
wow.
So unconditional living, unconditional.
Man, that's so dope. That's so dope. Listen, man. Listen. Uh I can't personally I can't thank you enough, man, because honestly, you and I we have these conversations all the time. But what you do is so needed. And man, I honestly, dude, I thank you, real Tim, for opening up that calendar, man, to be able to jump on here and share what so many people need right now. And so I'm excited for you, man. Um, if there are any uh additional questions that the audience has, definitely continue to chime in. Continue, as Tim just said, be social. Be social, right? If you're watching this replay, if you're going back and you're watching the replay, go ahead and type in your question, type in your comments. Let's keep this conversation going. If you indeed want a part two, then let us know. Let us know, and we will definitely come on and give you a part two, because honestly, me and Tim can be on here for hours, hours,
Easy.
hours, and hours. So, but again, we wanted to be mindful of your time. So, Tim, thank you, man. Thank you so much. As always, you always bring fire. And Ebony saying part two, me, please.
Yes, indeed.
So let's go ahead and put that on the calendar, and let's make this thing happen. Tim, I appreciate you. To my Lions Den family, again, thank y'all so much for tuning in, for rocking with your boy, and for really just entrusting in us to be able to really just bring what is a normal conversation for us, but bring it to this platform, because again, it's something that everybody needs, right? Whether you're in education, whether you're engineer, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. As Tim said in the beginning of this call, he's human. We're all human, right? So we experience the things that we talked about. So again, if you're just now tuning in, make sure you go back and watch this replay. And I'm probably going to tell you to get a notepad and something to write with in hand. And when you go back and watch this, because he dropped some serious jewels that I know will help a lot of people. So again, with that, we're gonna go ahead and close this one out. Tim, any final words that you want to share with the Lions Den?
Brother, I love you.
I love you, man.
And like I say, it's all practice. It's all practice. So when we find our thing, or you know what I'm saying, you find your approach, practice it.
Love it. Love it. All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close this thing on out. Love y'all. Whatever you do, keep pushing. Lions are waiting, but that means it. All right.